every once in a while, I like to check into to the UK to see how things are going. And well, I found something that shows how shockingly like American media the UK can be.
Morning, Mike.
Oh, hello. What are you glued to, Cameron?
Just your screen, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. What do you do for a living,
Well,
Cameron?
I'm a carpenter.
A carpenter, right. So how safe is that for the climate?
Well, I work with timber, which is a much more sustainable material rather than concrete. I also
But you work with
retrofit.
trees that have been cut down then, don't you?
It's a sustainable building practice
How is it sustainable if you're killing trees?
because it's regenerative. You can grow trees.
Right. Well, you can grow all sorts of things, can't you?
Well, you can't grow concrete.
You can. See you, Cameron. Cheerio. That was Cameron. He grows trees and then cuts them down and then makes things from them. Brilliant. Marvellous. I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
What? Now, okay, what I love about this guy's like, you know what we're going to do? The channel itself, they put this up and they're like, I can't believe we made Cameron look that stupid. Got him. I nailed him. You moron. You just said we can grow concrete. No, they don't grow oh my God. And then cut him off. Insane. All right, so now this happened on the Independent Republic of Mike Graham's show with host Mike Graham. Yes. Now, Cameron Ford. So I looked into this because I do want to have a serious point here. So Cameron Ford is an activist from the environmental activist group Insulate Britain. So I looked into the group, and they're calling for the British government to fund insulation of all social housing by 2025, and for the government to create a plan to fund retrofitting of insulation of all homes in Britain by 2030. So that's actually pretty interesting. This is something that I haven't thought about. Insulation, right? And its effect on climate change, specifically heating and cooling expenses. Now, according to The Guardian, the group's demands are in line with the consensus among climate scientists and policy experts that home insulation, including when retrofitted, is an environmental priority, and it saves money to occupants and is beneficial to the economy. So it saves energy and creates jobs, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the better insulated houses and businesses are, the less energy it takes to heat it in the winter, cool it in the summer, and of course, the less greenhouse gases are emitted from using that energy to heat and cool your homes. So it actually does make a lot of sense. And so their goals are actually pretty sensible and very standard. And the fact that this guy is that Mr. Cameron is a carpenter, kind of like Jesus, when you think about it, because Jesus also was a carpenter. And that's really the only comparison I'm going to make there. But like, all right, yes, you can cut down trees, but you could also replant them. I mean, it is sustainable. It is sustainable as long as you do it right. Now, of course, there are issues with overlogging, of course, and depletion of rainforests, for example, cutting down trees. But they're not using the trees, understand it, in those areas. They're just cutting them down to create more grazing space, which of course does ruin biodiversity. And so, look, that's if you're doing it right, trees and lumber are more sustainable. But if you're going to make the argument that no, they're not sustainable because you cut them down, you kill it, and therefore concrete's better, no, that's not factual. Okay, and see, it turns out that let's see, let's go to the facts here. So now, if you take in all the stages of production concrete is actually responsible for about 4 to 8% of the world's CO2 emissions. Among materials, only coal, oil, and gas are a greater source of greenhouse gases. Half of concrete CO2 emissions are created during the manufacture of something called clinker, the most energy-intensive part of the cement-making process. Concrete also uses up almost a tenth of the world's industrial water use, and in cities adds to the heat island effect by absorbing the warmth of the sun, trapping gases from car exhaust and air conditioner units. Of course, if you have this heat island effect, it makes it hotter in the cities. Therefore, people are going to use more energy for their air conditioners. And so, there are some pretty big downsides to using concrete. And of course, upsides being, stable buildings and civilization. And so you kind of have to find a balance here. Now, of course, the conservatives in the UK, and of course across the world, I should say, don't want to have this conversation. They hate this conversation. And they especially hate Insulate UK because, they protest. And they protest very, very aggressively. Not as hard as the French. The French are, you want to talk about protests. You want to talk about people going hard. You can't go harder than the French. But way harder than the US, obviously, because they have shut down main highways and even the port of Dover in some of their recent protests. So now those very hardcore protests do piss off a lot of people. And so, for example, opinion polling conducted by YouGov from the 5th of October to the 6th of October of this year found that 72% of those surveyed opposed the actions of the protesters. Only 18% supported the actions and 10% did not know. Still, understand that popularity doesn't necessarily mean that people won't support the goal. For example, political academics Oscar Berglund and Graham Hayes said at the protests, Insulate Britain, not Insulate UK. He says that their protests and their goals are an essential part of lowering Britain's emissions. Well, they quoted research that concluded that protesters who inconvenience others are more likely to achieve change, arguing that broad popularity isn't all that relevant. Providing counter-arguments against criticism, the writers say that motorway traffic and disruption that hurts vulnerable people is an everyday phenomenon, and that it is unlikely that people will be against insulating homes just because they get annoyed at protesters. Well, yeah, I would be annoyed. Yeah, yes, of course. Yeah, the big protest, you block the road, I'm going to be annoyed at you. But at the same time, your goal, I could definitely agree with. Absolutely. I support the aim. I support the goal. I think insulation's a fantastic idea. And look, to be fair, annoying protests, they may be annoying, but they sure do gain a lot of attention based on the fact that they are annoying. And so it does work. It does raise attention, even if it does, again, momentarily annoy the crap out of us. And here's the thing. If governments and corporations had their way, climate protesters would be sitting in the middle of a field with no one around them. No attention, zero attention given to them at all. Why? Because the system protects the status quo. And that status quo right now is oil, coal, and natural gas, and making sure that, we basically allow capitalism to go unimpeded. Now, the problem, of course, with the status quo is we are changing the environment faster than what humans would be able to tolerate. And it will get so bad that civilization will not be able to survive by the end of the century as it is now. So when faced with dire prospects, being temporarily annoyed doesn't sound so bad. Just saying. But again, the point is, people don't want to have the hard conversations about sustainability, about material use, and frankly, capitalism as a whole. Which basically, if you understand capitalism, it's based on a model of infinite growth. Infinite growth. Build. Build, create more, not for the sake of it, not because we actually need it, but because we need the jobs, and we need the capital. We need to continue growing and growing and growing, infinite growth, so that we can make infinite profit. not because we actually needed to support humanity. I mean, if it actually worked for humanity, think about it this way. Why are we still building homes when we already have enough empty homes to fill all the homeless people in the United States? And yet we're still building additional homes when you have a lot of homes that are sitting empty right now. It doesn't make any sense because it doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. It just drives up the price and it drives up profit. Doesn't make any sense. But as far as the UK is concerned, Graham, total tool. And I just want to thank him for making America feel a little bit better about its media, at least for one day. And at least until Tucker Carlson comes on, who's undoubtedly going to say something more stupid and or outrageous. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.